She had guarded the truth about their daughter from the billionaire CEO for 8 long years. Until now, when Willow's very survival hinged on his rare blood type. "Dr. Reed, please, tell me you found a donor." Ember Sinclair's voice broke, raw with desperation. Her fingers tightened around the cold metal rail of the hospital bed as she watched her 8-year-old daughter, Willow, lying still and pale against the stark white sheets. The rhythmic beeping of machines filled the sterile air, each pulse a stark reminder of Willow's fragile hold on life, as four lines snaked into her tiny arm, delivering life-sustaining fluids. "Miss Sinclair, I am deeply sorry, but we've exhausted our donor database." Dr. Reed's voice was a balm of gentleness laced with the harsh sting of reality. "Your daughter has AB-negative blood with the Duffy-negative antigen. It's an exceptionally rare combination, found in less than 2% of the population." His gaze was compassionate yet unwavering, conveying the gravity of the situation. "Without a transfusion within the next few hours, her condition will become critical." Ember's mind reeled, searching for a lifeline in the face of this devastating news. "There has to be someone somewhere who matches. We're still searching, but I need you to think carefully. Any blood relatives who might be compatible? Parents, siblings, anyone who might share this extremely rare blood type?" Ember closed her eyes, a wave of nausea washing over her as the impossible truth crashed down. There was someone she had deliberately banished from her thoughts for the past 8 years. Someone who was completely unaware of Willow's existence. "Her father," she whispered, the word a painful admission. "Can you contact him immediately?" Dr. Reed hesitated, his brow furrowed with concern. "Complicated, Miss Sinclair. Your daughter is dying. Complicated doesn't matter right now. Have you ever had to swallow your pride, confront the man who shattered your heart, all to save your child's life? Have you ever been forced to reveal a secret so monumental it threatened to unravel everything you'd painstakingly built? But staying silent meant losing the one thing that truly mattered." This is Ember Sinclair's story, a woman who guarded the ultimate secret for 8 years, until her daughter's life hung in the balance, forcing her to expose a truth that could irrevocably alter 3 lives. Unbeknownst to Ember, Phoenix Remington, the tech mogul whose rare blood held the key to saving their daughter, had spent the last 8 years haunted by the woman who vanished without a trace. The woman who had once possessed his heart entirely, only to disappear like smoke, leaving him consumed by unanswered questions and a gnawing sense of guilt. If you believe in the unbreakable bond of a mother's love, the sacrifices we make to protect our children, hit that like button. This is a roller coaster of emotions, a journey through love, loss, sacrifice, and the shattering moment when secrets become unbearable. Join me as we rewind 9 years, back to where it all began, to the gleaming towers of Remington Technologies, where a brilliant marketing director was about to succumb to the allure of her impossibly handsome boss, embarking on a forbidden romance. 9 years earlier, the 35th floor of Remington Technologies pulsed with the vibrant energy of a company poised to revolutionize the world. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered breathtaking panoramic views of the Seattle skyline, while cutting-edge technology and sleek, minimalist design fostered an atmosphere where innovation seemed not only possible but inevitable. Ember Sinclair stood poised in the conference room, the presentation remote a steady weight in her hand, a testament to her carefully controlled composure despite the intensity of the moment. At 23, she was the youngest marketing director in the company's history, celebrated for her ingenious campaigns and her uncanny ability to decipher consumer psychology with almost supernatural precision. "The Phoenix Project isn't just about launching a new social platform," she declared, clicking to her final slide, a vibrant image of interconnected individuals. "It's about forging digital connections that feel genuinely human. Our research unequivocally demonstrates that users crave authenticity, not manufactured perfection. They yearn for platforms that celebrate real life, not curated fantasies." Around the mahogany conference table, board members nodded in approval, murmuring their agreement. But Ember's gaze was fixed on the man at the head of the table, the one whose opinion carried more weight than all the others combined. Phoenix Remington was 36 years old, and he commanded attention effortlessly. a towering 6'3" frame of lean muscle encased in impeccably tailored suits, dark hair that seemed to capture and refract the light, and those piercing blue eyes that possessed an unnerving ability to penetrate your very soul. As CEO of Remington Technologies, he had built a tech empire worth billions. Yet, there was an undercurrent of melancholy in his expression, a subtle hint that success hadn't brought him the peace he craved. "Exceptional work, Miss Sinclair," he said, his voice resonating with an authority that sent shivers down the spines of Fortune 500 competitors. "Your campaign strategy perfectly captures the essence of what we're trying to achieve. Thank you, Mr. Remington. I firmly believe that authenticity is the future of digital marketing." "I agree wholeheartedly. Could you stay after the meeting? I'd like to discuss implementation details." The other board members filed out of the room, leaving Ember alone with Phoenix in the suddenly hushed conference room. The space felt smaller, more intimate, charged with an unspoken energy that she couldn't quite decipher. "That was brilliant," Phoenix said, rising and moving towards the window, his gaze sweeping over the cityscape below. "You possess an understanding of consumer behavior that is exceedingly rare in this industry." "I study people," Ember replied, her voice slightly breathless. "I try to understand what motivates them, what they truly seek beneath their superficial desires. And what do you believe people are really looking for?" Phoenix turned back to face her, his blue eyes intense. Ember paused, considering the question thoughtfully. Connection, purpose, the sense that they matter to someone, that their lives have significance beyond mere existence. Phoenix studied her face intently. "That's remarkably insightful. What about you, Ember? What are you looking for?" The use of her first name sent an unexpected jolt of electricity through her. "I want to create things that matter. Marketing that doesn't just sell products, but genuinely improves people's lives. That's precisely why I hired you. You see the bigger picture. Most people believe marketing is about manipulation. I believe it's about connection." "I think you're exactly right." They stood in the conference room, the glittering Seattle skyline stretching out before them, and Ember felt an undeniable shift in the atmosphere. Something dangerous, impossible, and utterly forbidden. Over the following months, their professional relationship deepened into something far more personal and intimate. Phoenix began seeking her input on decisions far beyond the scope of marketing. Ember found herself staying late, working on projects that could easily have waited until morning. Their conversations transcended business strategy, delving into philosophy, dreams, and the complexities of building something meaningful in a world fixated on profit. "You don't have to stay so late," Phoenix remarked one evening, finding Ember still glued to her computer at 9 o'clock. "The campaign launch isn't for another month. I want it to be perfect. This platform has the potential to change how people connect online. It's already perfect. You've created something extraordinary. There's always room for improvement." Phoenix moved closer to her desk, and Ember became acutely aware of his presence. The subtle scent of his cologne, the warmth radiating from his body. "Ember, you know you're remarkable, don't you? I'm dedicated to my work." "You're dedicated, brilliant, creative, and completely oblivious to your own impact." She looked up from her computer to find him studying her with an intensity that made her heart pound in her chest. "Mr. Remington, I think we should maintain professional boundaries. You're probably right, but I find myself wanting to know you beyond conference rooms and marketing strategies." "That's not appropriate." "No, it's not, but it's honest." The raw honesty in his voice undermined Ember's carefully constructed defenses. "This is complicated. The best things usually are. You're my boss. I'm aware of that. There are rules about workplace relationships. There are also rules about letting fear prevent you from pursuing something meaningful." Ember saved her work and closed her laptop, needing to create distance before she made a decision she couldn't take back. "I should go home. Have dinner with me." "Phoenix, we can't." "Why can't we? We're both adults, both single, both clearly feeling something that has nothing to do with work. Your family would never approve of you dating an employee." "My family doesn't dictate my personal life, does it?" The question hung between them, a silent challenge. Phoenix's family, especially his formidable father, James Remington, were notorious for their strong opinions about appropriate social pairings. Ember had heard whispers about the immense pressure on Phoenix to marry within their exclusive social circle. "Have dinner with me," Phoenix repeated, his voice softer now. "Just dinner. No pressure, no expectations beyond good conversation." Against her better judgment, Ember heard herself whisper, "Yes." The restaurant Phoenix chose was intimate and discreet, the kind of establishment where Seattle's elite could dine without attracting undue attention. Ember felt acutely out of place in her simple black dress, surrounded by designer gowns and meticulously styled socialites. "You look beautiful," Phoenix said as they were seated at a secluded corner table. "I feel underdressed. You look perfect. Real. Genuine. Not trying to be anyone other than yourself. Is that unusual in your world?" "More unusual than you might imagine." They talked for 3 hours about everything and nothing. Ember learned that Phoenix had launched his first company at 19, that he preferred books to parties, that he sometimes wondered if his success was worth the profound sense of isolation it had brought. "Don't you get lonely?" she asked as they shared a decadent chocolate dessert. "Constantly. Success is supposed to bring fulfillment, but mostly it brings obligations and people who want things from you." "What do you want that you can't have?" "Honest conversation. Someone who sees me as a person, rather than a bank account or a business opportunity." "Is that what this is? Honest conversation?" "It feels like something even better." "What's that?" "Real connection. With someone who challenges me to be better than I am." 6 months later, their relationship had blossomed into something beautiful, dangerous, and fiercely secret. They met for clandestine dinners at quiet restaurants, took leisurely strolls through the vibrant Pike Place market, spent stolen Sunday mornings reading newspapers in Phoenix's luxurious penthouse apartment. Ember had never felt more alive or more terrified. She was falling irrevocably in love with a man whose world she didn't belong to, whose family would never accept her, whose very presence in her life felt like borrowed time. "I have something to tell you," Phoenix said one Sunday morning as they sat on his expansive terrace, overlooking the sparkling waters of Elliott Bay. "That sounds ominous. My father is planning an announcement. A business merger with Worthington Industries." Ember's heart plummeted. She understood what business mergers meant in Phoenix's world. "And the merger comes with expectations, social expectations about Raven Worthington. My father believes that combining our companies and our families would create the most powerful tech dynasty on the West Coast." "What do you believe?" Ember asked, her voice barely a whisper. "I believe in following my heart, rather than my father's business strategies. Even if it costs you everything." "What's everything worth if it doesn't include the person you love?" The word hung in the air between them, a silent confession. "Love." Phoenix had said he loved her. "Phoenix, your family will never accept me. I'm a marketing director from Portland, whose father was a mechanic and whose mother cleaned houses. I don't care about any of that. You will when your father threatens to disinherit you. Money isn't everything, Ember. Easy to say when you've never been without it." They sat in silence, the immense weight of their impossible situation settling between them like a dense fog. "What if we tried?" Phoenix said finally, his voice filled with a fragile hope. "What if we stopped hiding and just told everyone the truth?" "The truth about what?" "That I'm in love with you. That you're the smartest, most genuine person I've ever met. That I don't want to marry Raven Worthington, or anyone else my father chooses. And when your family cuts you off, when your board of directors loses confidence, when the society pages tear me apart as the gold digger who seduced their prince, we'll handle it together. Will we? Or will you wake up one day and realize that love isn't enough to overcome the practical realities of our different worlds?" Phoenix moved closer to her on the terrace furniture, his gaze intense and unwavering. "Ember, I know this is complicated. I know there are obstacles, but what we have is real, and I'm willing to fight for it." "I'm scared," Ember admitted, her voice trembling slightly. "So am I. But I'm more scared of losing you than I am of facing my family's disapproval." For a fleeting moment, Ember allowed herself to believe it could work. That love truly could conquer the vast differences in their backgrounds. That Phoenix's feelings for her were strong enough to withstand the relentless pressure his family would bring to bear. But deep down, she knew better. The announcement came 2 weeks later, just as the Phoenix project was launching to unprecedented success, garnering rave reviews and shattering all expectations. Ember was in her office, reviewing media coverage, when her assistant knocked, her expression urgent. "Miss Sinclair, you need to see this." The news article filled her computer screen, a devastating blow that felt like a knife to the heart. Remington Technologies CEO Phoenix Remington announces engagement to socialite Raven Worthington. The merger of two tech dynasties promises to reshape the industry landscape. Ember stared at the accompanying photo of Phoenix and Raven, seemingly captured at an intimate dinner. Raven's hand was prominently displayed, showcasing an enormous diamond ring. Raven was everything Ember was not. Tall, blonde, impeccably polished, born into the very social circle that Phoenix inhabited. "Miss Sinclair, are you all right?" her assistant asked, her voice laced with concern. "I'm fine," Ember managed to say, her voice betraying none of the turmoil raging inside her. Just surprised by the news. But she wasn't fine. She felt like she was drowning in her own office chair, struggling to breathe as the crushing implications washed over her. Phoenix hadn't told her about the engagement. He had allowed her to believe they had a future together, while secretly planning a completely different life. Her phone buzzed with a text message from Phoenix. "Don't believe what you read. We need to talk immediately." Ember turned off her phone without responding. She couldn't face explanations or justifications, or whatever lies he might concoct to rationalize the engagement announcement. Instead, she walked to the executive floor, her resignation letter already composed in her mind. Phoenix's office doors were closed, but she could hear voices inside, familiar voices. Phoenix and his father, James Remington, were engaged in what sounded like a heated argument. The engagement announcement was premature, Phoenix was saying, his voice laced with frustration. "I didn't authorize the press release. The engagement is happening, whether you authorize the announcement or not." James replied coldly, his voice dripping with authority. "Raven Worthington is perfect for our family and our business interests." "I don't love Raven Worthington," Phoenix retorted, his voice rising in anger. "Love is a luxury that men in our position can't afford. Raven brings social connections, business opportunities, and the kind of breeding that will produce appropriate heirs. This isn't the 19th century, Dad. I can choose my own wife, can't I?" "You can, but you won't, because I've seen you sneaking around with that marketing girl, and it needs to stop immediately." Ember's heart stopped. They knew about her relationship with Phoenix. Ember Sinclair is brilliant, accomplished, and worth 10 of Raven Worthington. Ember Sinclair is a pretty distraction, from a working-class family with no social connections and no understanding of our world. She understands authenticity and genuine connection, which is more than I can say for most of our social circle. She understands an opportunity when she sees one. Do you really think a girl from her background would be interested in you if you weren't worth billions? That's not true, Phoenix protested, his voice laced with hurt. How long do you think her affection will last? When the novelty wears off and she realizes what she'd be giving up to be with you? How long before she decides that your money is more appealing than your person? You don't know her. I know her type. Ambitious, calculating, willing to seduce her way into a better life. She's using you, Phoenix, and you're too infatuated to see it clearly. She's never asked me for anything. She doesn't even want people to know we're together because she's smart enough to play the long game. But mark my words, if you pursue this relationship, she'll destroy everything our family has built. Ember had heard enough, more than enough. She backed away from the office doors, feeling as if her heart had been ripped from her chest. Phoenix's father had reduced her to every ugly stereotype about women who dared to love above their station. And Phoenix, despite his protests, hadn't been strong enough to silence the conversation completely. Worse, James Remington's words had stirred the doubts she had been desperately trying to suppress. Was she really just a distraction? Had she been naive to believe Phoenix would choose her over his family's empire? The engagement announcement suggested she had been. Ember returned to her office, composed a formal resignation letter, and placed it on Phoenix's desk while he was still embroiled in the argument with his father. She cleared out her personal belongings, bid farewell to her team, and walked out of Remington Technologies forever. She didn't answer Phoenix's calls. She didn't read his texts. She changed her phone number and moved out of her Seattle apartment in a single, whirlwind weekend. 2 weeks later, sitting in a doctor's office in Portland, Ember stared at test results that would alter the course of her life forever. "Congratulations, Miss Sinclair. You're pregnant." The words reverberated in the small examination room as Ember grappled with their implications. She was carrying Phoenix's child, the child of a man who was engaged to another woman, who had never confided in her about his family's relentless pressure, who existed in a world that would never truly accept her. "How far along?" The doctor asked gently. "About 6 weeks. Are you pleased with the news?" Pleased. Ember didn't know what she felt. Terrified. Overwhelmed. But beneath the fear, something else was beginning to stir. Hope. Love. The fierce, protective instinct that came with carrying new life. "I'm surprised she managed," the doctor continued, making notes on her chart. "Do you have support? The baby's father?" "The father isn't available." "I see. Well, there are resources available for single mothers, support groups, financial assistance programs." "I'll be fine," Ember declared, her voice firm despite the tremor in her hands. "I'll figure it out." And she would. Somehow, someway, she would build a life for herself and her child that didn't depend on Phoenix Remington's approval or his family's acceptance. That night, Ember sat alone in her small Portland apartment, her hands resting protectively on her still flat stomach, making decisions that would shape 3 lives forever. She could inform Phoenix about the pregnancy. She could demand financial support, custody arrangements, acknowledgement of his parental responsibilities. She could force her way into his world and contend with the inevitable consequences. Or she could vanish completely, raise the child on her own terms, in her own world, without the complications of Phoenix's family, or the constant reminder of a love that hadn't been strong enough to transcend social expectations. The engagement announcement was still seared into her memory, a constant reminder of Phoenix's choice. He had chosen his path. Now she would choose hers. She chose freedom. She chose self-respect. She chose to raise her child far from the judgment and manipulation of people who perceived her as a threat to their carefully constructed world. She never told Phoenix Remington that he was going to be a father. 8 years later, Ember had built a life that surpassed her wildest dreams. Her boutique marketing agency, Sinclair Strategies, had evolved into one of the most respected firms in Portland, renowned for authentic campaigns that resonated with real people, rather than manufactured personas. Her daughter, Willow, was everything beautiful about Phoenix, devoid of any of the complications. 8 years old, brilliant, creative, with striking blue eyes and dark hair that caught the light just like her father's. She was a gifted artist who perceived the world in a kaleidoscope of colors and endless possibilities. A child who posed insightful questions and created beauty wherever she went. "Mom, why don't I look like you?" Willow asked one morning over breakfast, her gaze fixed on her reflection in the chrome surface of their refrigerator. "You look like yourself, sweetheart. That's the most important thing. But I have blue eyes and dark hair, and you have green eyes and red hair. Kids at school say I must look like my dad." Ember's heart clenched. This conversation had been inevitable, but she still wasn't prepared for it. "What do you think about that?" she asked, carefully keeping her voice neutral. "I think I'd like to know what he looks like. Do you have pictures?" "It's complicated, Willow. Everything interesting is complicated. That doesn't mean it's impossible." 8-year-old wisdom, delivered with matter-of-fact certainty. Ember marveled at her daughter's clarity and dreaded the day when simple questions would demand complex answers. "Someday we'll talk about your father. When you're older and can understand the whole story." "How old is old enough?" "I don't know yet. Will you know when I get there?" "I hope so." Willow seemed satisfied with this response, turning her attention back to the watercolor painting she was creating at the kitchen table. She was working on a series of portraits of imaginary people, each one more expressive and emotionally complex than seemed possible for a child her age. "This one is a businessman," she said, showing Ember a painting of a man in a suit, gazing out a window. "He looks sad, even though he has everything he wants." Ember's breath caught in her throat. The painting bore a striking resemblance to Phoenix, even though Willow had never seen a photograph of him. There was something in the expression, the posture, the palpable sense of isolation. "Despite obvious success, why do you think he's sad?" Ember asked, her voice barely a whisper. "Because having everything you want isn't the same as having everything you need." "What does he need?" "Love. Real love. The kind that makes you feel like you matter." Ember stared at her daughter, awestruck by the depth of understanding in someone so young. "You're very wise. I get it from you. I think you get it from yourself." That afternoon, Ember was in her office, reviewing proposals for a new campaign, when her assistant buzzed her with an urgent tone. "Miss Sinclair, there's a call from Willow's school. They say it's an emergency." Ember's world tilted on its axis. "Put them through immediately." "Miss Sinclair, this is Principal Martinez." Willow collapsed during the school play rehearsal. "The paramedics are transporting her to Portland Children's Hospital. You need to get there immediately." The drive to the hospital passed in a blur of traffic lights and frantic prayers. Ember found Willow in the emergency room, unconscious and pale, surrounded by monitors and medical equipment that seemed disproportionately large for her small body. "What happened?" Ember demanded of the attending physician, her voice trembling with fear. "Your daughter suffered what appears to be a severe case of acute anemia. Her blood count is dangerously low, and we're running tests to determine the cause." "Is she going to be okay?" Ember pleaded, her eyes darting between Willow's still form and the doctor's grave expression. "We're doing everything we can. But Miss Sinclair, I need to ask about family medical history. Any genetic blood disorders? Any relatives with similar conditions?" "I don't know much about her father's medical history," Ember confessed, the words feeling like a lead weight in her stomach. "We may need to contact him. Depending on what we find, family medical information could be crucial for treatment." 3 hours later, Dr. Harrison Reed entered the family consultation room, carrying test results that threatened to shatter Ember's carefully constructed world. "Miss Sinclair, your daughter has been diagnosed with a rare blood disorder that requires immediate treatment. She needs a blood transfusion, but she has an extremely rare blood type, AB negative with the Duffy negative antigen." "How rare?" Ember asked, her voice barely audible. "Found in less than 2% of the population. We've contacted blood banks across the Pacific Northwest, but we haven't found a compatible donor yet." "What does that mean?" Ember whispered, her mind reeling. "It means we need to find someone with her exact blood type very quickly. Family members are the most likely matches. Can you contact her father?" Ember felt the weight of 8 years of secrets crushing down on her. The choice she had made to shield her daughter from Phoenix's complicated world had suddenly transformed into a choice that could cost Willow her life. "It's complicated," Ember said, her voice choked with emotion. "Miss Sinclair, your daughter's condition is critical. We need to explore every possible option for finding a compatible donor." Ember closed her eyes, visualizing Phoenix's face in her memory, recalling a conversation from 9 years ago when he had casually mentioned having a rare blood type, making him a valuable donor for emergencies. The same blood type that could now save their daughter's life. "I need to make a phone call. Share this if you believe a mother will do anything to save her child. Because what happens next will test everything Ember thought she knew about sacrifice, forgiveness, and the agonizing price of guarding life-altering secrets." The phone number hadn't changed in 8 years. Ember's gaze remained fixed on her cell phone screen, the digits illuminated in the dimly lit hospital family room. Phoenix's contact information stubbornly persisted under P. Remington work, as if maintaining that professional distance could somehow shield her from the intensely personal heartbreak he had inflicted. A tremor ran through her hands as she sat there, acutely aware that the next few minutes held the potential to shatter the 8 years of carefully cultivated independence she had so painstakingly built. But above all else, Willow lay just 3 floors above, locked in a life-or-death struggle, and her well-being eclipsed everything else. The phone emitted a single ring, then another. On the third, a voice, undeniably familiar, broke through the silence. Phoenix Remington. The sound of his voice resonated like a physical blow, catapulting her back to memories she had desperately tried to suppress. That same self-assured tone, that slight, seductive rasp that had whispered countless sweet nothings against her skin, stealing moments of stolen passion. Phoenix, it's Ember. Silence descended. Profound, absolute silence that stretched to an agonizing length, making her question if the call had been disconnected. Ember. Her name, barely a breath on his lips, laced with disbelief and a hint of what might have been longing. Ember Sinclair. I can't believe it's really you. I need your help. Where are you? Where have you been for 8 years? I searched everywhere. I hired private investigators, tried everything to find you. His voice was now laced with an undercurrent of barely controlled desperation. Phoenix, I don't have time to explain everything right now. I'm at Portland Children's Hospital and I need to know something about your medical history. You're hurt. Are you okay? What happened? The concern in his voice was immediate, genuine, cutting through the carefully erected emotional walls she had built around herself. I'm fine, but Phoenix, I need to know about your blood type. You mentioned once that you had a rare type, AB negative with some unusual antigen markers. Why are you asking about my blood type? Ember, what's going on? Ember closed her eyes, bracing herself, knowing that the next words would irrevocably alter the landscape between them. I have a daughter. She's 8 years old and she's dying. Each word fell like a stone. She needs a blood transfusion with an extremely rare type, and you might be the only person who can save her life. The silence this time was different, heavy with implications that slowly began to dawn. 8 years old. Phoenix repeated slowly, the words measured, as if testing their weight. Ember, are you telling me what I think you're telling me? She has AB negative blood with the Duffy negative antigen. The doctors say it's found in less than 2% of the population. That's my exact blood type. His voice had undergone a transformation, becoming deeper, more intense. Ember, is she mine? Yes. The admission hung between them like the aftermath of an explosion. 8 years of secrets, 8 years of running, 8 years of safeguarding their daughter from a world that might reject her, all reduced to that single damning word. I have a daughter. Phoenix's voice cracked on the words, raw with emotion. I have an 8-year-old daughter who's dying, and I didn't even know she existed. Phoenix, I can explain everything later, but right now, she needs you. Can you get to Portland Children's Hospital immediately? I'm already heading to my helicopter. What's her name? Willow. Her name is Willow Sinclair. Willow. He repeated the name like a whispered prayer. I'll be there in 45 minutes. The line went dead, leaving Ember alone, grappling with the immensity of what she had just set into motion. In less than an hour, Phoenix would meet the daughter he never knew existed, the child who, in so many ways, was a mirror image of himself, who possessed his intellect, his intensity, and who had been increasingly persistent in her questions about her father. Ember retreated to Willow's room, where her daughter lay unconscious, appearing impossibly small and fragile amidst the intimidating array of medical equipment. The monitors displayed her vital signs, holding steady but weak, her body waging a fierce battle that science could potentially win, if only they could secure the right ammunition. Miss Sinclair. Dr. Reed materialized beside her, holding updated test results. We've run additional blood work, and your daughter's condition is more complex than we initially thought. She has a genetic blood disorder that's been dormant until now. The good news is that it's treatable with the right blood transfusion and ongoing medical management. What triggered it? Sometimes these disorders activate during periods of physical or emotional stress. Has Willow been dealing with anything unusual lately? Ember's mind flashed to the recent conversations about Willow's father, the increasingly frequent and specific questions that had been surfacing. She's been asking about her father, about why she doesn't look like me, about whether she'll ever meet him. That kind of emotional questioning can certainly create stress in a child. But Miss Sinclair, once we get her stabilized with the transfusion, this condition is very manageable. She can live a completely normal life. If we can find a donor, have you had any luck reaching family members? Her father is flying in from Seattle. He has the same blood type. That's excellent news. When will he arrive? Within the hour. Dr. Reed jotted notes in Willow's chart. I'll have the blood compatibility tests ready. If he's a match, we can begin the transfusion immediately. 30 minutes later, Ember recognized the unmistakable whirring sound of a helicopter landing on the hospital's rooftop helipad. Her heart rate spiked with adrenaline as she realized Phoenix had arrived, was actually here, in the same building, about to meet their daughter for the first time under the most emotionally charged circumstances imaginable. She stood silently by Willow's bedside, memorizing her daughter's peaceful face, trying to capture this moment before everything became infinitely more complicated. Excuse me, are you Ember Sinclair? Ember turned to face a hospital security guard standing at the door. Yes, there's a gentleman here asking for you. Says his name is Phoenix Remington. Send him up. He's quite insistent about seeing you immediately. And ma'am, he's got quite an entourage with him. Personal assistant, security detail, what looks like a private medical team. Of course he did, she thought wryly. Phoenix never did anything quietly or simply. Even emergency hospital visits came with full executive support. Just send him to room 314. The rest of his people can wait in the family lounge. 5 minutes later, Phoenix Remington strode through the door of his daughter's hospital room, and Ember's carefully constructed world shifted precariously on its axis. He looked both exactly the same and utterly different. Still devastatingly handsome at 35, still possessing that commanding presence that seemed to dwarf everyone else. But there were subtle lines around his eyes that spoke of sleepless nights and the weight of responsibility, a gravity in his expression that hadn't been there 8 years ago. He wore a perfectly tailored charcoal suit that probably cost more than most people's monthly salary. Yet it was clear he dressed in a hurry. His tie was slightly askew, his usually impeccably styled hair showing signs of being impatiently pushed back by anxious fingers. His gaze immediately locked onto the hospital bed where Willow lay sleeping, and Ember watched his face undergo a profound transformation as he saw their daughter for the first time. Oh my God! The words were barely a whisper. She looks exactly like me. It was undeniably true. Willow had inherited Phoenix's striking bone structure, his thick, dark hair, his long, dark eyelashes. But even more than that, she had his intensity, even in sleep, the impression that powerful thoughts were constantly churning behind those closed eyes. She's beautiful, Phoenix breathed, moving closer to the bed as if drawn by an invisible force. She's absolutely beautiful. Don't wake her up, Ember said quietly. She needs rest. Phoenix turned to face Ember fully for the first time, and she felt the impact of those familiar blue eyes like a palpable force. 8 years, Ember. You kept her from me for 8 years. You were engaged to someone else. I was never engaged to Raven Worthington. That announcement was my father's manipulation, not my choice. The words struck Ember like a physical blow. What? I broke off that engagement the day it was announced. I spent months trying to find you, trying to explain what happened. The newspaper said. The newspaper printed what my father wanted them to print. I never proposed to Raven. I never agreed to that marriage. I was trying to figure out how to tell my family about us when that announcement blindsided me completely. Ember felt the room start to spin around her. You weren't engaged? I was in love with you. I was planning to propose to you. But your father said. My father said a lot of things. None of them represented my feelings or my intentions. The revelation was devastating. Ember sank into the chair beside Willow's bed as the full weight of the implications crashed over her. She had run from a lie. She had hidden their daughter from a man who had never betrayed her, who had been searching for her while she was building a life based on a monumental misunderstanding. I heard you talking to your father, she said weakly, the memory still vivid. I heard him call me a distraction. Heard him say I was using you, and you believed him over me. You didn't defend me strongly enough. I was trying to be diplomatic while planning to defy him completely. I was going to choose you, Ember. I was going to choose *us. You never told me about the pressure from your family. You never explained how impossible our situation was. Because I didn't think it was impossible. I thought love was enough to overcome family expectations. Phoenix now looked down at their sleeping daughter, his expression transforming into something that appeared to be a mixture of wonder and profound heartbreak. Now I know that love isn't enough if it doesn't include trust. If it doesn't include communication. If it doesn't include the courage to believe in each other when things get complicated. Before Ember could respond, Dr. Reed reappeared in the doorway with a nurse carrying medical equipment. Mr. Remington, I presume? I'm Dr. Reed, and we need to get your blood tested immediately for compatibility. Whatever you need, Phoenix said, already rolling up his sleeve. How is she? What exactly is wrong? Your daughter has a genetic blood disorder that requires immediate transfusion and ongoing treatment. The condition is manageable, but right now she needs blood that matches her very rare type. She's going to be okay with the right treatment? Absolutely. She can live a completely normal, healthy life. Phoenix submitted to the blood draws and medical questions with the efficiency of someone accustomed to making rapid decisions under pressure. But his attention constantly drifted back to Willow, studying her face as if trying to memorize every detail. How long will the compatibility testing take? He asked Dr. Reed. About 30 minutes for preliminary results. If you're a match, we can begin the transfusion immediately. And if I'm not, we continue searching, but time becomes more critical. Phoenix nodded grimly. Is there anything else I can do? Any other tests? Any specialists you need? Right now, we wait for the blood work. After Dr. Reed left, Phoenix and Ember sat in uncomfortable silence on opposite sides of Willow's bed. The 8 years that separated them felt like an ocean of missed opportunities and profound misunderstandings. What's she like? Phoenix asked quietly, breaking the silence. She's extraordinary, brilliant, creative, intuitive. She asks questions that make me think for hours. Does she know about me? She knows she has a father. She's been asking more questions lately about why she doesn't look like me, about whether she'll ever meet you. What do you tell her? That it's complicated. Is it still complicated? Ember looked at the man who had once been everything to her, who was now a stranger sitting beside their child's hospital bed. Everything about this is complicated. Phoenix, it doesn't have to be, does it? You're a billionaire CEO with a life I couldn't fit into 8 years ago. I'm a single mother who built her own company in her own world. We're different people now, aren't we? Are we? Because looking at you now, being in the same room with you, it feels like no time has passed at all. 8 years have passed. 8 years of raising our daughter alone. 8 years of building a life that doesn't include you. It could include me now, couldn't it? What about your family's expectations? What about the social pressure? What about the fact that I'm still the working-class girl from Portland who isn't sophisticated enough for your world? My world is whatever I choose to make it. Is it? Because last I checked, you were still the CEO of a company that your family founded, still moving in social circles that measure people by their pedigree. Phoenix remained silent for a moment, studying Willow's sleeping face. You're right. My professional life is still complicated by family expectations and social pressures. But my personal life is mine to control. What does that mean? It means I've spent 8 years learning the difference between what looks good on paper and what actually matters. And what actually matters? This, her, you. The family I didn't know I had. Before Ember could respond, Willow's eyes fluttered open. She looked around the hospital room with confusion, her gaze traveling from Ember to the monitors, then to the unfamiliar man sitting beside her bed. Mom! Her voice was weak but clear. What happened? Why am I in the hospital? You got sick during play practice, sweetheart. But the doctors are taking good care of you. Willow's attention fixed on Phoenix with a direct curiosity. Phoenix's breath hitched as he looked into his daughter's eyes for the first time, eyes that were remarkably like his own, alert and intelligent despite her illness. "I'm Phoenix," he said gently. "I'm a friend of your mother's. You have blue eyes like me." "I do. And dark hair like me." "That's right." Willow studied his face with the intense focus of an artist studying their subject. "You look familiar." "Do I? Like someone I've seen in pictures or dreams or something." Ember felt her heart ache as she watched her daughter instinctively recognize the father she had never met. "Phoenix is here to help you get better," Ember said carefully. "How can he help?" "He has the same rare blood type that you do. He might be able to give you some of his blood to make you feel better." Willow considered this with the straightforward logic of an 8-year-old. "Like sharing?" "Exactly like sharing." "That's very nice of you," Willow said to Phoenix. "Sharing blood is probably the nicest thing you can share with someone." Phoenix's eyes welled with tears he desperately tried to suppress. "I would share anything with you, Willow." "Why?" The question hung in the air, laden with implications that an 8-year-old couldn't possibly grasp. "Because you're a very special little girl who deserves to be healthy and happy. Mom says I'm special too. She says I got my artistic talent from someone important." Phoenix glanced at Ember, seeing the careful way she had woven half-truths into a story that wasn't entirely a lie. "Your mom is very wise." "She is. She's the smartest person I know. She built her own company, and she takes care of me all by herself." "That's very impressive. Do you have kids?" The question was innocent, but it landed on Phoenix like a physical blow. "I'm just learning about having children." "It's the best thing in the world," Willow said earnestly. "Seriously, even when kids get sick or ask too many questions or make mistakes." "What kinds of questions do you ask?" "Important ones. Like why the sky is blue and why people fall in love and why some families look different from other families. Those are very important questions." "Do you know the answers?" "I know some of them. The sky is blue because of how light bounces off tiny particles in the atmosphere. That's the science answer. But I think the sky is blue because blue is the color of possibility, and the sky is where all possibilities live." Phoenix stared at his daughter in amazement. "That's the most beautiful explanation I've ever heard." "I get my creativity from my father," Willow said matter-of-factly. "Even though I've never met him." "What do you know about your father?" "Mom says he's someone who's very smart and very busy and very far away. She says maybe someday I'll get to meet him." "Would you like that more than anything?" "I have so many questions I want to ask him." "Like what?" "Like whether he thinks about me sometimes. Like whether he would be proud of my paintings, like whether he has blue eyes like mine." Phoenix looked across the bed at Ember, his expression pleading for permission to reveal the truth. "Willow," Ember said gently, "there's something we need to talk about." "Am I in trouble?" "No, sweetheart. But Phoenix isn't just Mom's friend. He's someone very special to our family." "How special?" Ember took a deep breath, knowing that the next words would change their daughter's life irrevocably. "Phoenix is your father." Willow's eyes widened as she processed this information. She looked from Ember to Phoenix and back again, her artistic mind clearly trying to rearrange everything she thought she understood about her world. "You're my dad?" "Yes," Phoenix said, his voice thick with emotion. "I'm your dad. But Mom said you were far away." "I was. But I'm here now. Are you going to stay?" The question was simple, yet it carried the weight of 8 years of absence and a lifetime of unspoken yearning. "I want to stay if you want me to. I want to know everything about you. I want to know why you were far away, and why you're here now, and whether you like my paintings. I would love to see your paintings. I painted you once before I knew what you looked like. I painted a businessman who looked sad even though he had everything he wanted." Phoenix felt his heart clench. "Why did you paint me sad?" "Because I could feel that you were missing something important." "What was I missing?" "Me and Mom. You were missing your family." The simple truth, delivered with childlike clarity, struck Phoenix harder than any business negotiation or family confrontation ever had. "You're absolutely right. I was missing my family." Dr. Reed chose that moment to return with the test results, his expression reflecting the relief that medical professionals experience when everything unfolds according to plan. "Mr. Remington, you're a perfect match. We can begin the transfusion immediately. How long will it take? Phoenix asked. About 3 hours for the full transfusion. Willow will need to rest during the process, but she should start feeling better almost immediately. Will it hurt? Willow asked. Not at all, Dr. Reed reassured her. It's like getting a very special gift from your father that will make you strong and healthy. The best gift ever, Willow agreed. As the medical team prepared for the transfusion, Phoenix took Willow's small hand in his much larger one. Willow, I want you to know that I didn't stay away because I didn't want to be your father. I stayed away because I didn't know you existed. Why didn't you know? Because your mom and I had a misunderstanding. We both made mistakes that kept us apart. But you're together now. We're here now. Together for you. Good, because I have 8 years of questions to ask you. I have 8 years of answers to give you. The transfusion process commenced with remarkable efficiency. Phoenix lay in a hospital bed beside Willow, connected to medical equipment that would transfer his blood to his daughter. It was the most meaningful utilization of his wealth and privilege he had ever encountered, giving a part of himself to save the child he was just beginning to know. Tell me about your paintings, he said as they waited for the process to conclude. I paint feelings mostly. Happy feelings are yellow and orange. Sad feelings are blue and gray. Angry feelings are red and black. What color is love? Love is every color together because love includes all the feelings. That's very wise. I learned it from watching Mom. She loves me in every color. Phoenix glanced at Ember, who sat quietly beside them, likely still processing the enormity of what was unfolding. Tell me about your mom. She's the strongest person in the world. She works really hard and takes care of me and still has time to help with my school projects. She reads to me every night and answers all my questions, even the hard ones. What are the hard questions? Like why some kids have daddies who live with them and some kids have daddies who live far away? Like why some people have lots of money and some people have to worry about paying bills? What does she tell you? She says that every family is different, but love is what makes families real. She says money is just a tool, and what matters is how you use it to help people. Phoenix looked at Ember with newfound respect. Your mom is very smart. I know. That's why I want to be like her when I grow up. What do you want to be? An artist who helps people feel better. Like Mom helps businesses tell their stories. I want to help people tell their feelings through pictures. That sounds like a wonderful career. What do you do for work, Dad? Dad. The word struck Phoenix like lightning, casual and natural as if Willow had been saying it her whole life. I run a technology company. We create software that helps people connect with each other. Like the internet, sort of. We make programs that help people share ideas and work together on projects. Do you like it? I used to think I did. Now, I'm wondering if I've been doing it for the right reasons. What are the right reasons? To help people. To make the world a little bit better. Mom says that's the only reason to do any job. Your mom is right about a lot of things. As the transfusion progressed, Phoenix found himself falling completely in love with this remarkable child who shared his blood and, apparently, his insatiable curiosity. Dad, can I ask you something personal? Of course. Do you love Mom? The question seemed to materialize from nowhere, delivered with the directness that children employ when they seek genuine answers. Phoenix glanced at Ember, who had become remarkably still at their daughter's question. That's a very complicated question, Willow. No, it's not. Either you love someone or you don't. Sometimes grown-ups have complicated feelings. But underneath the complicated feelings, do you love her? Phoenix met Ember's eyes across their daughter's bed, seeing a vulnerability she struggled to conceal. Yes, he said quietly. I love her. More than I knew it was possible to love someone. Good. Because I love you too. Even though I just met you. How can you love someone you just met? Because you're my dad. And you gave me your blood to make me better. And you have kind eyes. That's enough to start with. 2 hours later, the transfusion was complete, and Willow's color had already begun to return to normal. Her energy improved visibly, and her vital signs indicated the type of gradual improvement that medical professionals considered a harbinger of success. The transfusion was completely successful, Dr. Reed reported. Willow should be able to go home tomorrow, and with proper medical management, she can live a completely normal life. What does proper medical management mean? Ember asked. Regular blood work, some dietary adjustments, and monitoring for any signs of relapse. But this condition is very manageable with current treatments. Will she need more transfusions? Possibly, but not frequently. And now that we know Mr. Remington is a perfect donor match, we have a reliable source if needed. Phoenix squeezed Willow's hand. I'll always be available if you need me. Promise? I promise. Good. Because I have a lot more questions to ask you. I look forward to answering them. That evening, as Willow slept peacefully with dramatically improved vital signs, Phoenix and Ember at long last had after 8 years of carefully avoiding the elephant in the room, they found themselves in the sterile environment of the hospital family lounge. The air was thick with unspoken words, heavy as the terrible coffee they were both nursing. I'm sorry, Ember finally broke the silence, the words tumbling out like a dam had burst. I'm sorry I didn't tell you about her. I'm sorry I believed your father instead of trusting you. I'm so damn sorry I robbed you of 8 years with your daughter. She paused, taking a shaky breath. The weight of her past mistakes seemed to crush her. I'm sorry too. I'm sorry I didn't explain the pressure from my family. God. Phoenix. I'm sorry I let you walk away without fighting harder to keep you. I'm sorry I wasn't strong enough to protect what we had. Phoenix reached across the small table, his hand covering hers. We were both young and scared, We were. But Ember, we're not young and scared anymore. He squeezed her hand. No, now we're older and hopefully wiser. Hopefully wise enough to not make the same mistakes twice. Ember looked at him, confusion clouding her features. What are you saying? Phoenix turned to face her fully, the uncomfortable plastic chair creaking beneath him. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead, casting a harsh light on their faces. I'm saying that I've spent 8 years comparing every woman I met to you, and finding them wanting. I'm saying that I never got married because no one ever made me feel the way you did. Ember, I'm saying that I want to be part of Willow's life, not just as a blood donor or an occasional visitor, but as her father. And I want to be part of your life, too, if you'll let me. Ember pulled her hand away, a flicker of fear in her eyes. It's not that simple. Why not? We love each other. We have a daughter together who desperately wants a family. Because 8 years have passed, Phoenix. Because we're different people now. Because my life is in Portland and yours is in Seattle. Those are logistics, not obstacles. Those are real considerations. Phoenix, I've built a business here, a community, a life that works for Willow and me. And I've built a company that can be run from anywhere, Ember, with technology that makes distance irrelevant. He leaned forward, his eyes pleading. What about your family's expectations? Phoenix's question hung in the air, a reminder of the past pressures that had torn them apart. Ember straightened her shoulders. What about them? I'm 35 years old, and I'm tired of living my life according to other people's expectations. Your father can accept my choices or not. That's his decision. Phoenix, this isn't just about us anymore. We have to think about what's best for Willow. What's best for Willow is having 2 parents who love her and each other. Is it? What happens when the novelty wears off? What happens when you realize that being a father is about school plays and bedtime stories and sick days, not just dramatic hospital visits? Then I'll learn about school plays and bedtime stories. Ember, I've spent 8 years building an empire that means nothing without people to share it with. And I've spent 8 years proving that I don't need anyone to take care of me. This isn't about need. This is about want, about choice, about building something together that's better than what either of us could create alone. Ember was quiet for a long moment, processing everything he was saying. The weight of his words, the sincerity in his voice, was almost overwhelming. I'm scared, she admitted finally, her voice barely a whisper. So am I. But I'm more scared of losing you again than I am of facing an uncertain future together. What if we hurt each other again? Then we'll figure out how to heal and do better. But Ember, what we have is worth fighting for. How do you know? Because our daughter exists. Because she's extraordinary and brilliant and kind. And she's the perfect combination of both of us. Because if we could create something that beautiful together without even trying, imagine what we could build if we put our hearts into it. Before Ember could respond, a small voice interrupted them from the doorway. Are you guys having feelings talk? They turned to find Willow standing in the doorway, wearing a hospital gown and dragging her four-pole, looking much more alert than she had earlier. Willow, you should be resting, Ember said immediately, moving to guide her daughter back to bed. I'm feeling much better, and I couldn't sleep because I kept thinking about important things. What important things? Phoenix asked, his voice softening. She settled into a chair between them, her four-pole beside her like a strange, metallic companion. I've been thinking that some families start with a mom and a dad who love each other and plan to have a baby together. That's right, Ember said carefully. And some families start with just a mom or just a dad who loves their baby so much that they figure out how to make everything work. Also right. But some families start in a mixed-up way, where the mom and dad love each other but get confused and make mistakes, and then they have to find their way back to each other. Phoenix and Ember exchanged glances over their daughter's head, a silent conversation passing between them. That's also possible, Phoenix said. I think we're the third kind, Willow announced, her voice filled with the unwavering certainty of a child. The kind where everyone loves each other but got confused for a while. What makes you think that? Ember asked, a hint of amusement in her voice. Because when you and Dad look at each other, you get the same expression that people get in movies when they're trying not to cry because they're so happy. Phoenix chuckled. You're very observant. I'm an artist. I notice feelings. What else do you notice? Phoenix asked, intrigued. I notice that Dad's eyes get soft when he looks at you, Mom. And I notice that you smile differently when you're talking to him. How do I smile differently? Willow considered this for a moment. Her brow furrowed in concentration. Like you're remembering something wonderful that you thought you lost. The observation was so accurate and so innocent that both adults fell silent, caught off guard by her perception. So I think, Willow continued with 8-year-old logic, that you should stop being confused and just be a family. It's not quite that simple, sweetheart, Ember said gently. Why not? Because grown-up relationships involve a lot of complicated decisions. Like what? Like where we would live and how we would manage our work, and whether we're really compatible as partners. Where would you want to live? Willow asked Phoenix, her eyes wide with anticipation. Wherever you and your mom are. See, that's easy. What about work? I can run my company from anywhere, Phoenix said, his gaze fixed on Ember. And Mom's company is the best in Portland. So obviously we'd stay here. What's compatibility? Willow asked, tilting her head. It means whether people work well together as a team, Ember explained. Do you work well together? We used to. Did you stop knowing how? Or did you just stop trying? The question hung in the air with devastating simplicity, piercing through years of unspoken regrets. We stopped trying, Phoenix admitted, his voice heavy with remorse. So try again, Willow said as if the solution was obvious. That's what I do when I mess up a painting. I don't throw it away. I fix the parts that aren't working and make it better. What if the painting is too damaged to fix? Ember asked, her voice tinged with sadness. Then you use the good parts to start a new painting. But you always keep the good parts. Phoenix looked at Ember across their daughter's head, his eyes filled with hope. What are our good parts? We love each other, Ember said quietly. We love Willow. We're both successful, intelligent people who share similar values. And we make beautiful babies, Phoenix added with a slight smile. Just one beautiful baby, Ember corrected, but the implication made her heart skip a beat. Phoenix, I'm just saying that our track record for creating extraordinary human beings is pretty impressive. One sample is not a track record. It's a promising start. Willow looked between them with satisfaction, her face beaming. See, you're already working well together. You're planning the future and making each other smile. We're having a conversation, Ember said carefully. The best kind of conversation, the kind where everyone gets what they want. What do you think everyone wants? Phoenix asked, curious. I want a dad who lives with us and reads bedtime stories and comes to my art shows. That sounds reasonable. Mom wants someone who loves her and helps her and doesn't try to change her. Also reasonable. And Dad wants to be part of our family and not be lonely anymore. Phoenix felt his throat tighten, overcome by the truth in her words. How do you know Dad was lonely? Because of the painting I made before I met you. You had lonely eyes. I did have lonely eyes, but you don't now. No, now I have hopeful eyes. Good. Because hope is the best feeling to have when you're building something new. Dr. Reed appeared in the doorway, looking concerned. Willow, you should be in bed resting. I'm having an important family meeting. Family meetings can happen tomorrow. Right now, you need sleep so your body can finish getting better. Will Mom and Dad still be here tomorrow? I'm not going anywhere, Phoenix said immediately. Me neither, Ember added. Good. Because tomorrow I want to show Dad my paintings, and I want you both to tell me stories about when you used to love each other before you got confused. As they tucked Willow back into her hospital bed, she grabbed both their hands, her small fingers entwined with theirs. I'm really glad I got sick, she said seriously. Sweetheart, don't say that, Ember protested. But I am, because if I hadn't gotten sick, I wouldn't have met my dad, and you wouldn't have remembered that you love each other. We never forgot that we loved each other, Phoenix said gently, but you forgot how to show it. Now you remember. How do you know we remember? Ember asked, her voice filled with emotion. Because you're both here and you're both staying and nobody's talking about complicated things anymore. She drifted off to sleep, holding both their hands, leaving Phoenix and Ember connected across her small body. She's remarkable, Phoenix whispered, his voice filled with awe. She's always been wise beyond her years. She gets that from you. She gets it from both of us. They sat in the quiet hospital room, holding their daughter's hands and processing everything that had changed in a single day. The weight of the past slowly lifting, replaced by a fragile hope for the future. Fix, Ember said quietly, breaking the silence. If we try to be a family, I need you to understand that I'm not the same woman I was 8 years ago. I know. You're stronger, more independent, more accomplished. I'm also more careful with my heart, more protective of Willow's emotional security. I would never do anything to hurt either of you intentionally. I know that, Ember. But what happens when your family pressures you again? What happens when business obligations conflict with family time? What happens when you realize that domestic life isn't as exciting as corporate conquests? Then I'll remember this moment. I'll remember my daughter asking me to read bedtime stories, and my heart almost exploding with happiness. He looked at her, his eyes earnest. Promise me something, anything. Promise me that if you change your mind, if you decide this isn't what you want, you'll be honest about it instead of just disappearing. I promise. But Ember, I'm not going to change my mind. How can you be sure? Because I've spent 8 years trying to fill the hole you left in my life, and nothing worked. Because I built an empire that means nothing without people to share it with. Because our daughter just gave me more joy in one day than I felt in 8 years of professional success. And because you love me. And because I love you more than I've ever loved anything in my life. The next morning brought sunshine streaming through the hospital windows and the sound of Willow's laughter as she showed Phoenix her sketchbook. She had brought her art supplies from home, and he was seeing 8 years of artistic development compressed into a single morning. A whirlwind tour of her inner world. This one is from when I was 5, she explained, showing him a crayon drawing of a stick figure family, the colors bright and cheerful. That's me. That's Mom. And that's the space where Dad would be if he wasn't far away. Phoenix's breath caught in his throat as he studied the drawing, seeing the careful way she had left room for a third figure, a silent testament to his absence. You drew a space for me. I always knew you existed somewhere. I just didn't know where. Phoenix studied the drawing, his heart aching with a mixture of regret and love. What did you imagine I looked like? Willow considered this for a moment, her eyes sparkling with imagination. Tall, strong, kind eyes. He smiled, a genuine smile that reached his eyes. I got the eyes right. Yes, you did. This one is from last year, she continued, flipping to a watercolor painting that showed remarkable sophistication for a 7-year-old. It's called Missing Pieces. The painting showed a puzzle with one piece floating above the rest, clearly belonging, but not yet connected, a visual representation of her incomplete family. That's how I felt sometimes, Willow explained, like our family was almost complete, but missing one important piece. And now? Willow smiled, her face radiant. Now the piece fits and the puzzle is whole. Ember watched this interaction from the doorway, leaning against the frame, marveling at how naturally Phoenix connected with their daughter. There was no awkwardness, no uncertainty, just genuine interest and delight in everything Willow shared. Dr. Reed says I can go home today, Willow announced, her voice bubbling with excitement. That's wonderful news, Phoenix said, his eyes lighting up. Will you come see our house if your mom says it's okay? Willow turned expectant eyes toward Ember, her small face pleading. Mom, can Dad come see our house? Of course he can. And stay for dinner, Willow added, her enthusiasm growing with each passing second. And maybe stay overnight in the guest room because I have so many more paintings to show him and stories to tell him. Phoenix looked at Ember with a question in his eyes, a silent request for permission. We'll see, Ember said diplomatically, trying to manage her own emotions and Willow's boundless enthusiasm. That's grown-up talk for probably, Willow told Phoenix confidentially, her eyes twinkling with mischief. I'll take probably, Phoenix said, smiling. 2 hours later, they were driving through Portland in Phoenix's rented SUV, Willow chattering excitedly about everything they passed, pointing out landmarks and sharing stories, while Phoenix navigated with GPS assistance, trying to absorb every detail of their lives. That's my school, Willow pointed out, her voice filled with pride. That's where I got sick during play practice. What play were you rehearsing, Annie? Phoenix asked, using the nickname he had learned from Ember. Annie, I'm playing an orphan who finds her family. That seems appropriate. That's what I thought too. Art imitates life. Where did you learn that phrase from, Mom? She says that sometimes the stories we tell reveal truths we didn't know we were looking for. Phoenix glanced at Ember in the passenger seat, catching her eye and sharing a smile. Your mom is very philosophical. She has to be. Marketing is about understanding what people really want underneath what they think they want. And what do most people really want? Phoenix asked, turning back to Willow. To belong somewhere. To matter to someone. To feel like their lives have purpose. What about you? What do you really want? Willow considered this for a moment, her brow furrowed in thought. I used to want to know my dad. Now I want my parents to be happy together. That's a very mature wish. I'm a very mature 8-year-old. Ember's house was a charming craftsman bungalow in a tree-lined neighborhood that managed to feel both urban and cozy, a haven of warmth and creativity. The front yard was full of flowers that Willow had helped plant, and there was a porch swing that looked like it got regular use, a testament to the simple joys of family life. This is beautiful, Phoenix said as they walked up the front steps, his eyes taking in the details of the home. It's not very fancy, Ember said, suddenly seeing her home through the eyes of someone accustomed to penthouse apartments and estate properties. It's perfect. Feels like a real home. Inside, the house was filled with Willow's artwork, comfortable furniture, and the kind of lived-in warmth that money couldn't buy. It was clear that this was a space where a child was encouraged to be creative and expressive, a sanctuary for her imagination. My room is upstairs, Willow announced, her voice bubbling with excitement. I want to show Dad my art studio. Willow's bedroom was a riot of color and creativity. One wall was covered with her paintings, showing artistic development from toddler scribbles to sophisticated compositions that revealed genuine talent. These are incredible, Phoenix said, studying each piece carefully, his eyes filled with admiration. You have a real gift. Mom says I got my artistic talent from my father's side. Phoenix looked at Ember with surprise, his eyebrows raised. I haven't painted since college. You used to paint? Willow asked, her eyes widening with curiosity. I used to do a lot of things before business consumed my life. Maybe you could start again, Willow suggested, her voice filled with hope. We could paint together. I'd like that very much, Phoenix said, his gaze meeting Ember's across the room. They spent the afternoon going through 8 years of Willow's artwork, school projects, report cards, and photo albums, Phoenix absorbing every detail like a man dying of thirst. Finally finding water, eager to learn everything about the daughter he had missed so much time with. Here's my first grade picture, Willow said, showing him a school photo where she was missing her 2 front teeth, her smile wide and gap-toothed. You look exactly like I did at that age, Phoenix said, studying the photo. Do you have pictures of when you were little somewhere? I could find them and show you. I want to see everything. Baby pictures, school pictures, pictures of you and Mom when you used to love each other. We do have some of those, Ember admitted, her cheeks flushing slightly. Can we look at them? Maybe later, Ember said, trying to deflect the question. Mom keeps them in a box in her closet. Willow informed Phoenix, her voice conspiratorial. She thinks I don't know. But I've seen her looking at them sometimes when she thinks I'm asleep. Phoenix met Ember's eyes across their daughter's head, seeing surprise and vulnerability there. A glimpse into the private world she had built in his absence. You kept pictures of us, Phoenix said softly. I kept everything. I couldn't bring myself to throw away the good memories just because the ending was painful. That evening, they ordered pizza and ate it picnic style on the living room floor, Willow regaling Phoenix with stories from 8 years of life without him, filling in the gaps in his knowledge, painting a vivid picture of the daughter he was just beginning to know. Tell me about your first steps, Phoenix said, leaning back against the sofa. I don't remember my first steps, but Mom says I walked early because I was trying to reach her art supplies. Your first words? Mama, kitty, and pretty. I had my priorities straight. Your first day of school? I cried because I thought Mom wouldn't be there when I got home, but she was waiting on the porch with cookies and wanted to hear about everything I learned. Phoenix looked at Ember with admiration, his heart filled with gratitude for the way she had raised their daughter. You've done an incredible job raising her. We've done a good job together, haven't we, Mom? Willow said, her voice filled with love. The best job, Ember agreed, her eyes shining with emotion. Now we can do an even better job with Dad helping. As evening turned to night, Willow began yawning, despite her determination to stay awake and absorb every moment with her newly discovered father, the excitement of the day finally catching up with her. Time for bed, sweetheart? Ember said gently, tucking a stray strand of hair behind her ear. Will Dad read me a story if he wants to? I would love to read you a story, Phoenix said, his eyes sparkling with warmth. I want to hear about the businessman who found his family, Willow said, snuggling under the covers. I don't think I know that story. I do. Once upon a time, there was a very successful businessman who had everything he thought he wanted. A big company, lots of money, and people who respected him. Sounds like a good life. But he was missing something important, and he didn't even know what it was. He tried working harder and making more money and buying bigger houses, but nothing filled the empty space in his heart. Phoenix tucked Willow into her bed, surrounded by stuffed animals and art supplies, his heart swelling with love for this remarkable child. What was he missing? Phoenix asked, playing along with her story. His family. But he didn't know he had a family because of a big misunderstanding that made everyone confused. How did he find his family? His little girl got sick and needed his help. And when he came to help her, he remembered that he loved her mom and wanted to build a life together. Did they live happily ever after? They're working on it, Willow said, her voice already growing drowsy. Happily ever after takes practice. Phoenix kissed Willow's forehead, overwhelmed by the love he felt for this daughter. I love you, Willow. I love you too, Dad. Will you still be here when I wake up? If your mom says it's okay, she'll say yes. She wants you to stay too. She's just scared to admit it. After Willow fell asleep, Phoenix and Ember sat on the front porch swing, sharing a bottle of wine and processing the surreal events of the past 2 days. The weight of the past slowly fading, replaced by a fragile hope for the future. This is nice, Phoenix said, looking out at the quiet neighborhood, the gentle hum of crickets providing a soothing soundtrack. It's peaceful, different from the city. Better than the city. You might get bored. Ember, I've been bored for 8 years. This is the first time I've felt truly alive since you left. What about your company? Your responsibilities in Seattle? Technology companies can be run from anywhere, Ember, and honestly, I've been thinking about scaling back my involvement anyway. Why? Because success without people to share it with is just an expensive form of loneliness. They swung gently in the evening air, both lost in their own thoughts, the silence between them comfortable and companionable. Phoenix, if we do this, if we try to build a family together, I need you to understand that I'm not going to be the accommodating girlfriend I was 8 years ago, Ember said, her voice firm but gentle. I don't want you to be. I want you to be exactly who you are now. I have opinions about how to raise Willow. I have a business that requires my attention. I have a life that I've built carefully and deliberately, and I want you to support all of that, even when it conflicts with what you want, especially then. Ember, I've learned the difference between compromise and sacrifice. I want a partner, not a subordinate. What's the difference? Compromise means we both give something to get something better together. Sacrifice means one person gives up everything for the other person's benefit. And you're ready for compromise? I'm ready for partnership. Real partnership, where we make decisions together and support each other's dreams. What about children? Do you want more children? If you want them, but I'm not going to pressure you or make it a condition of our relationship. What if I can't have more children? Then we'll pour all our love into Willow and maybe consider adoption if we want to grow our family. You've really thought about this, Ember said, her voice filled with surprise. I've had 8 years to think about what I would do differently if I ever got a second chance with you. Ember leaned against his shoulder, feeling some of her protective walls beginning to crumble, the weight of the past slowly lifting, replaced by a fragile hope for the future. I'm still scared. So am I. But scared together feels better than safe and alone. What happens next? Next, I go back to Seattle and arrange to relocate my operations here. I find a house in this neighborhood, close enough to be involved, but far enough to give you space. I start learning how to be a father and a partner. Just like that? Ember asked, a hint of disbelief in her voice. Just like that? Unless you have objections. I have concerns. Tell me. Oh, I'm concerned that you're making decisions based on emotion rather than logic. I'm concerned that you'll miss your old life when the novelty of family life wears off. I'm concerned that Willow will get attached to you and then get hurt if you change your mind. All reasonable concerns. What would help you feel more confident about this? Ember asked, her voice barely a whisper. Time, consistency, proof that you're committed for the long term, not just caught up in the drama of the moment. How much time? I don't know. Enough time to see how you handle the ordinary moments, not just the crisis. What ordinary moments? School pickups when you have important meetings, bedtime stories when you're tired from traveling, parent-teacher conferences and soccer games, and all the mundane responsibilities of family life. I want all of that. You think you want all of that. There's a difference. Phoenix turned to face her on the porch swing, taking her hands in his. Ember, what can I do to prove that this isn't temporary infatuation? Be patient. Let us get to know each other again slowly. Don't rush into anything permanent until we're all sure it's right. How long? A year. Give us a year to see if this works before we make any major commitments. A year of dating. A year of co-parenting and figuring out if we're compatible as adults rather than just nostalgic about who we used to be. I can live with that. Good. Because Willow's emotional security is my first priority. Mine too. They sat in comfortable silence, each imagining what the next year might bring, the challenges and joys that lay ahead, the uncertainty and the hope. Phoenix. Yes? Thank you for coming when I called. Thank you for saving her life. Thank you for calling me. Thank you for giving me the chance to know her. She's the best thing I've ever done. She's the best thing we've ever done together. So far. 6 months later, Phoenix had relocated his company's operations to Portland and bought a house 4 blocks from Ember and Willow, a testament to his commitment. He had become a fixture at school events, soccer games, and parent activities, earning acceptance from other parents who initially saw him as an outsider, proving that he was there to stay. He was no longer just a visitor, but a part of their community, a dad, a partner, and a friend. More importantly, beyond grand gestures, Phoenix had proven his commitment in the quiet, everyday moments that had once fueled Ember's deepest anxieties. The late-night emergencies, when Willow was stricken with the flu, her small body burning with fever, and he'd rushed over, a comforting presence in their chaotic lives. The school science fair projects, which demanded a level of patience he never knew he possessed, as he carefully guided Willow's small hands in building a volcano that would inevitably explode. And the daily routine, the simple yet profound acts of making breakfast, overseeing homework, and reading bedtime stories. The small responsibilities that formed the very fabric of their family life. "Dad, are you coming to my art show next week?" Willow asked one evening, her voice filled with anticipation as they sat side by side in her art studio, lost in a world of colors and imagination, collaborating on a painting. "I wouldn't miss it for the world," Phoenix replied, his heart swelling with pride. "Good. I'm unveiling my masterpiece." Willow's eyes sparkled with a mischievous glint. "What's your masterpiece?" he asked, intrigued. "It's a secret, but it's about families and how they find each other, even when they're lost." She paused, adding mysteriously, "I can't wait to see it. You might cry." "Why would I cry?" Phoenix chuckled, but a knot of emotion tightened in his chest. "Because it's about true love, and true love always makes people cry happy tears," Willow declared with the unwavering conviction of a child. Phoenix glanced across the room at Ember, who was engrossed in her work, designing marketing materials for a new client, her brow furrowed in concentration. Over the past few months, he had witnessed her soften, the walls around her heart slowly crumbling, allowing their relationship to rebuild itself, brick by brick, slowly and naturally. "Are you excited about the art show?" he asked her, his voice laced with a hint of trepidation. Ember looked up, a soft smile gracing her lips. "Willow's been working on something big, something deeply personal, and she won't tell me what it is. She's very secretive about her masterpiece." "She gets that dramatic flair from your side of the family?" Phoenix teased, hoping to lighten the mood. "I was never dramatic," Ember protested, feigning offense. "You flew here in a helicopter for a medical emergency," he reminded her, his eyes twinkling. "That was practical. Not dramatic," she insisted. "It was romantic," Phoenix countered, his voice low and sincere. "Was it very romantic?" she asked, a hint of amusement in her voice. Powerful businessman dropping everything to save his secret daughter. "It was the stuff of fairy tales," he said, his gaze locking with hers. "Not secret anymore?" Ember whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "No, not secret anymore," Phoenix affirmed, reaching out to gently brush a strand of hair from her face. The art show was held in Willow's school gymnasium, transformed into a vibrant gallery filled with the creative expressions of young minds. Proud parents milled about, admiring their children's artistic endeavors. Willow, with the unwavering confidence of a budding artist, had insisted that Phoenix and Ember sit together in the front row, strategically positioned so she could witness their reactions when her masterpiece was finally revealed. "Ladies and gentlemen," the art teacher announced, her voice echoing through the gymnasium. "Our final piece tonight is by Willow Sinclair, who has created what she calls the complete family." A hush fell over the room as the curtains were drawn back, revealing a large canvas that immediately took everyone's breath away. Willow had painted a family portrait, but it was far from ordinary. She had captured Phoenix, Ember, and herself, their likenesses rendered with a remarkable level of detail and emotion. But beyond that, she had also included shadowy figures representing the people they had been before they found each other. On one side stood a lonely businessman, his eyes devoid of warmth, his shoulders slumped with the weight of the world. On the other side stood a strong, yet weary single mother, carrying the burdens of the world alone, her spirit dimmed by hardship. In the center stood a small, vibrant girl, reaching toward both of them, her tiny hands extended, bringing them together, bridging the gap between their separate worlds. But the true genius of the masterpiece lay in how Willow had painted light radiating from the center, from the very point where all three figures connected, illuminating the canvas with a warmth that transcended the physical realm. It was a visual representation of how love could transform sadness into joy, isolation into connection, brokenness into wholeness. "This is my family," Willow's voice, amplified by the microphone, filled the room as she began to explain her painting. Her words carefully chosen, her voice trembling with emotion. We started out broken and lonely, lost in our own separate worlds, but we found each other, and we became complete. Phoenix felt tears welling up in his eyes, blurring his vision as he gazed at his daughter's artistic interpretation of their complex journey. Beside him, Ember was crying too, her face etched with a mixture of awe and emotion, overwhelmed by the profound beauty of how their child perceived their story. The most important thing I learned, Willow continued, her voice gaining strength, is that families aren't just born. Sometimes they're built by people who love each other enough to try again, even when they make mistakes, even when they stumble and fall. The applause was thunderous, a wave of sound that reverberated through the gymnasium, but Phoenix barely registered it. He was too lost in the moment, too consumed by the emotions swirling within him. He was too busy looking at the woman beside him, seeing his future reflected in her tear-filled eyes. "She's extraordinary," he whispered, his voice hoarse with emotion. "She is," Ember agreed, her voice barely audible. "We made something beautiful together." "Want to make something else beautiful together?" Phoenix asked, his heart pounding in his chest. "What did you have in mind?" Ember replied, her eyes searching his. With trembling hands, Phoenix reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. But this time it was different from 8 years ago. This time, he wasn't offering it as a culmination, as a desperate attempt to fix a broken image, but as a beginning, as a symbol of hope and commitment, as a promise of a future built on a foundation of love and trust. "I was thinking we could make a lifetime together," he said, his voice filled with sincerity. "A real lifetime, built on truth and communication and the kind of love that gets stronger with time rather than weaker." Ember stared at the ring box, her heart racing, her mind struggling to reconcile her past fears with the reality of the present moment. "Phoenix, I know we agreed to take a year," she began, her voice hesitant. "Ember," Phoenix interrupted, his eyes pleading, "I've spent 6 months learning to be a part of your life, truly a part of it, and I don't want to spend another day not being your husband. What about the concerns I had, about the ordinary moments and long-term commitment?" she asked, her voice laced with vulnerability. "I think I've proven my commitment to the ordinary moments, haven't I?" he replied, a gentle smile playing on his lips. "As for long-term, I'm hoping for at least 60 more years if you'll have me." "And if I say yes," Ember said, her voice trembling, "then we plan a wedding that makes our daughter proud, and we build the kind of marriage that shows her what real love looks like. A marriage based on mutual respect, unwavering support, and a shared commitment to growing together." "And if I say no," she continued, her voice barely a whisper, "then I wait however long it takes for you to be ready, because you and Willow are worth any amount of patience." Ember gazed at this man who had proven his love through consistency rather than grand gestures, who had earned his place in their family through everyday dedication rather than dramatic declarations. He had shown her, through his actions, that he was truly committed to building a life with them, a life filled with love, laughter, and unwavering support. "Ask me properly," she said, a mischievous glint returning to her eyes. Without hesitation, Phoenix slid off his chair onto one knee, right there in the middle of the school gymnasium, in front of all the other parents and children, his heart overflowing with love. "Ember Sinclair," he began, his voice ringing with sincerity, "will you marry me? Not because you complete my image or fix my loneliness, but because you're my partner in every way that matters. Because together we created something extraordinary, and I want to spend the rest of my life creating extraordinary things with you." "Yes," she whispered, her voice filled with emotion. Then, louder, with newfound conviction, she declared, "Yes, I'll marry you." The gymnasium erupted in applause, a chorus of cheers and congratulations that washed over them as Phoenix slipped the ring onto Ember's finger. But the most important approval came from the stage, where Willow was jumping up and down with excitement, her face beaming with joy. "I told you it was about true love," she called out to the audience, her voice filled with triumph. "And true love always has a happy ending. 6 months later, they were married in the same school gymnasium where Phoenix had proposed, surrounded by the community that had welcomed them as a family, a testament to the power of love and forgiveness. Willow served as maid of honor, wearing a dress she had designed herself, a whimsical creation that reflected her artistic spirit. She carried a bouquet of flowers she had painted on canvas, a vibrant representation of the beauty and fragility of life. "Do you, Phoenix?" the officiant began, his voice filled with warmth. "Take Ember to be your wife, promising to support her dreams, share her burdens, and love her through all the ordinary and extraordinary moments of life?" "I do," Phoenix replied, his voice filled with unwavering certainty. "Do you, Ember?" the officiant continued. "Take Phoenix to be your husband, promising to trust his commitment, share your life, and build a future based on the love you've rediscovered?" "I do," Ember affirmed, her voice ringing with conviction. "By the power vested in me by the state of Oregon, I now pronounce you husband and wife," the officiant declared, his voice booming with authority. As they kissed to seal their marriage, Willow cheered from the front row, her voice joining the chorus of friends, family, and the entire community that had watched their love story unfold, a collective expression of joy and celebration. "Ladies and gentlemen," the officiant announced, his voice filled with pride, "I present to you the Remington family, Phoenix, Ember, and Willow, a testament to the fact that the best families are built on love, patience, and second chances." During the reception, held in the school cafeteria, now transformed into a festive space adorned with Willow's artwork, Phoenix found himself reflecting on the long and winding journey that had brought them to this moment. "Any regrets?" Ember asked, her voice soft as they swayed to the rhythm of their wedding song, a melody that spoke of enduring love and unwavering commitment. "Only one," Phoenix replied, his voice filled with tenderness. "What's that?" she asked, her eyes searching his. "That it took a medical emergency to bring us back together," he confessed, his voice laced with regret. "I wish I'd been brave enough to find you sooner. Maybe we needed those 8 years apart," Ember said, her voice filled with wisdom. "Maybe we needed to become the people we are now before we could build something lasting." "Maybe," Phoenix conceded, his hand tightening around hers. "But I'm grateful for every day from now on. Even when Willow becomes a teenager and tests our patience," he added with a chuckle. "Especially then," Ember agreed, squeezing his hand. "Even when your business requires travel, and I'm grumpy about managing everything alone," Phoenix continued, teasingly. "Especially then," Ember affirmed, her eyes sparkling with love. "We're partners now, real partners in every sense of the word. And when we're old and boring and take each other for granted," Phoenix said, his voice dropping to a whisper, "then we'll remember this day and all the days that led to it, and we'll choose to fall in love again, all over again." As the evening progressed, Phoenix watched Willow dance with her friends, her face glowing with happiness at seeing her parents finally together, her dreams fulfilled. His heart was full, overflowing with a love he had never experienced before, a sense of completeness he had never thought possible. "Dad?" Willow appeared beside him during a quiet moment, her eyes shining with adoration. "Yes, sweetheart," he replied, his voice filled with tenderness. "Thank you for coming back," she said, her words simple yet profound. "Thank you for bringing us together." "I didn't bring you together," Phoenix corrected, his voice gentle. "Love brought you together. I just helped you remember." "How did you get so wise?" Willow asked, her eyes filled with admiration. "I have really good parents," Phoenix replied, his voice filled with pride. "Yes, you do," Willow agreed, her smile radiant. "Dad?" "Yes? Can I ask you something important?" she asked, her voice suddenly serious. "Always," Phoenix replied, his heart filled with anticipation. "Are you going to give me a little brother or sister?" Phoenix nearly choked on his champagne, his eyes widening in surprise. "That's a very personal question, Willow," he stammered, trying to regain his composure. "But are you?" she persisted, her eyes pleading. "Your mom and I will discuss that when the time is right," Phoenix replied, carefully avoiding a direct answer. I hope you do, Willow said, her voice filled with hope. I think I'd be a good big sister. I think you'd be the best big sister in the world, Phoenix affirmed, his heart swelling with love for his daughter. Good, because I have a lot of love to share, Willow declared, her voice filled with conviction. And love grows when you share it instead of keeping it to yourself. Phoenix looked across the reception at his wife, who was laughing with friends, her face radiant with happiness, beautiful in her simple wedding dress, radiating the kind of joy that comes from being exactly where you belong. You're absolutely right, he told his daughter, his voice filled with admiration. Love grows when you share it. So share lots of love, Dad, Willow said, her eyes twinkling. Our family is just getting started. And she was right. Their family was just getting started, built on a foundation of truth, trust, and the kind of love that gets stronger when tested by time and circumstances. In the end, the secret that Ember had kept for 8 years had become the bridge that brought them all together, a catalyst for healing and forgiveness. Sometimes, the things we hide to protect ourselves become the very things that save us when we finally find the courage to reveal them. Phoenix and Ember had learned that love isn't just about finding the right person. It's about becoming the right person, someone worthy of the extraordinary love that waits on the other side of growth, forgiveness, and second chances. And sometimes, just sometimes, the universe conspires to bring people back together exactly when they're ready to build something beautiful from the broken pieces of what came before. Subscribe for more incredible stories about love, secrets, and the lengths we go to protect our children. Because the greatest love stories are the ones that prove that it's never too late to choose love over fear, truth over pride, and family over everything else that seems important but really isn't. The moral of this story reaches beyond romance into the very heart of what it means to be a family. Never let pride prevent you from reaching out when someone you love needs help. Never let fear of the past prevent you from building a beautiful future. And never underestimate the power of a child to see the simple truths that adults complicate with their own insecurities and fears. Sometimes the greatest gifts come wrapped in our greatest crisis. Sometimes the people we think we've lost forever are just waiting for the right moment to come home. And sometimes love really can conquer all, especially when it's supported by wisdom, patience, and the daily choice to put family above everything else.